Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. So, today's topic, TMS knowledge is not the cure. Implementation is. So we'll get to that in a minute. So, the owners of the property here put down some new mulch. Stinky. Hopefully that doesn't last too long. Beautiful night. It's a little after 7. Birds are still chirping. Sun's about to go down. So, TMS, meaning mind-body knowledge, is not the cure. Implementation is. So, if you're new to the channel, I talk about TMS, perceived danger pain, which is my term for mind-body conditions. Perceived danger is what creates symptoms. So, Dr. Sarno used to talk about book cures. People would read the book and get better. I think a lot of Dr. Sarno's approach was knowledge therapy. He would do 2 workshops. He would consult with his patients in the office, and he would convey knowledge that you're not really broken. And some people would get better just by that alone. And the book cures, I think, were people who, when they realized, I'm not structurally broken, what happened to the fear? Came down drastically. And in some cases, that was enough for people to get better. It's rarely the case today, especially as the symptoms get more and more varied, that somebody will just hear about this stuff and symptoms go away. Now, I've definitely had people tell me that within the first week or 2 of learning about this stuff and starting to watch some videos, their symptoms have come down considerably. And that is just more and more evidence that the knowledge is a great tool to reduce the fear and the perception of danger. But it's not always enough. Implementation, what do I mean by that? Well, I talk about safety all the time. Conveying to the brain that you're okay is the solution. Implementing the safety messages is the solution. There's a bunch of ways to convey safety to the brain. It starts with the foundation of understanding that you're not broken. How do we do that? Learn about perceived danger pain, also known as TMS. The brain is creating the vast majority of chronic pain. I don't believe that pain is our body's natural state. It means something is wrong. But if the body heals, why does pain become chronic? I believe it's because the brain, through attention and fear, learns to keep it going because the brain perceives there's an ongoing problem with the body. Now, that can also hold true for other symptoms: digestive, dizziness, vertigo, reflux, you name it, migraines, headaches, weakness, numbness, tingling. These things can become persistent with enough fear and attention. But I don't believe symptoms are a chronic thing unless the brain continues to perceive a problem. And so, knowledge, I don't believe, is enough to cure. I think we have to implement that knowledge. And what that means is conveying safety consistently. Implementation is the key. We've got to take action on the knowledge, because if that were the case, then people would read one book and they'd get better. But they don't, because they still might be questioning, well, does that apply to me? Maybe I've got, a bulge, a herniation, a labral tear, a rotator cuff tear, or some kind of abnormality. And if you're not accepting that the brain is creating the pain based on the perception of danger, then the brain's not going to turn off the pain. Even though you know that the brain is controlling the pain, that knowledge of knowing that the brain determines the pain is not enough to turn it off. Knowledge is not the cure. Implementation is. Implementation in my world is teach the brain that you're actually okay. Your body's not at fault. Your body's not the problem. You're not broken. You're not sick. You have a brain sounding false alarms persistently because it continues to perceive that there's a problem. So you got to put this stuff into action, folks. Knowledge is great, and that may give you the initial lowering of symptoms. But then what sometimes happens is some people start to go, yeah, I started getting a little bit better, but then it stopped getting better. And then it started getting worse again. So maybe it's not this mind-body thing. Well, oftentimes I see that. Often it is a mind-body issue, but symptoms get better at first, and then they start getting worse because people start to question, uh-oh, why is it getting worse? I'm supposed to be getting better. I know what's going on, but then we start to second guess. Am I doing this right? Am I sending the right message to my brain? What if I'm too anxious for this? I have too much stress in my life. Maybe I can't get better until I eliminate all this stress. And there's a lot of perceptions that we need to be perfect, lead a perfect life, a happy life in order to get better. That's not true. What we want to do is convey to the brain that these perceived dangers are not true threat. They're not true threats. And when we do that consistently over time, gradually, the brain will eventually buy that message. It will be sold on the message that you're actually okay. So knowledge isn't enough. Implementation is. So I hope this makes sense. I'm going to wrap it up here. Not a real long video, but get the knowledge. Acquire the knowledge up front. That's foundational. Do the assessments. Chapter 6 of the book, that's where the assessments are. Okay? If you don't have the book, painfreeyoubook.com in the U.S., or just go to your regional Amazon store for the book, or audible.com. And the audiobook is also on spotify.com. Search my name, Dan Buglio, or Pain Free You. You'll find it. It's also on Barnes & Noble and Walmart and some other online retailers as well. But if you search for the book on Google, you'll probably be given a number of options. So, all that said, knowledge, TMS knowledge, mind-body knowledge alone is not the cure. Implementation is. Put it to action, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. All right, folks. Love you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.